Okay, guys, I'm here today with John Danaher. Huge honor for me. And guys, this is exactly 8 weeks after John did his second surgery on his hip. And John, can you share a little bit of the experience? I think this is a type of injury that I see a lot of people like scared to do, and many people do have the hip problem. And I think by you sharing some of your experience might help some people to make the decision if they should do or not do it and that kind of stuff.
My situation is a little unusual because I have a crippled leg. This is a normal leg which extends, and this is my crippled leg.
It literally doesn't extend.
That's the most I can do. So that's why my knee is somewhat deformed. So I've had this since I was around 18, 19 years old. And because of the fact that my leg doesn't straighten, I walk with a heavy limp, and I have my whole life. You understand this as an athlete. When one part of the machine is broken, it throws a lot of stress on the total machine. So when you walk with a limp your whole life, your hips tend to bear uneven stresses, and it causes problems. So around my mid-40s, I started having pretty severe osteoarthritis in my left hip. And around the age of 50, I had my first hip replacement. Technically, it wasn't a hip replacement. It's called a hip resurfacing, which is very similar to a hip replacement, but it's a different medical procedure. And I chose that because at the age of 50, at that time, there was some doubt that a hip replacement would last the rest of my life. And one of the advantages of a hip resurfacing is it gives you a chance to get a second revision surgery if necessary when you're older. This time, when my second hip went out, I remember when I did my first hip replacement, the doctors saw the MRI and they're like, Mr. Danaher, your other hip's pretty bad too. And they're like, why don't you just do both at the same time? And I was like, no. So they said, we'll see you soon. And then sure enough, when I was in Puerto Rico, my right hip started having the identical symptoms that I'd had years before in my left hip. And I was going to do the hip replacement when we were in Puerto Rico. And then the team split up, and I had to form a whole new team in 1 year, and I couldn't do it. So I just kept it off for 4 years. Then it started getting very bad. And so I had on this side a different kind of operation. On this side, on my left side, was a hip resurfacing using a Birmingham hip resurfacing implant. On this side is it's a more sort of standard kind of hip replacement where they use a ceramic ball. In my case, it's a different one because I do Jiu-Jitsu. A small femoral head on a hip replacement has a problem with dislocation. Your natural hip has a rather large femoral head. Most hip replacements have a much smaller femoral head, and as a result, there's a danger of slippage. A hip replacement is essentially a cup and ball, and it goes in like so. The smaller the ball, the higher the rate of dislocation, especially if you're doing something like Jiu-Jitsu where you're playing guard position or something like this. So I had a much larger ball put inside, and of a particular type called a dual mobility ball, where one ball is put inside a larger ball, so you get a better range of motion and a larger femoral head. So better range of motion, less chance of dislocation. They're made out of incredible modern ceramics, which are much harder than steel. And they, in the cup, the ball goes into a cup. The cup is made out of a very modern form of polyethylene, which is usually radiated, and as a result has very, very low wear rate. So they last a long time. Doctors are never going to tell you how long a hip replacement lasts. They're never going to say it's going to last. But the general consensus is it will probably last longer than I do. Like I will die before the hip replacement dies.
For both or
for both?
For both. Okay, that's good.
And so yeah, I don't want to go through this again. That's for damn sure. So they can do revision surgeries, but it's a pain in the butt. You don't want to do that if you can avoid it. So now I have this second one, and with regards comparing the two, they both take away the dreadful pain inside your hip of osteoarthritis. They do that very well. In the case of the hip resurfacing, there's a very large incision. It's about an 8 to 10 inch cut through your ass muscles. Now, your gluteal muscles are a big part of your strength. So they cut right through those muscles, and it's quite a long time before they feel strong again. In this case, it was done an anterior approach, a much smaller 4-inch incision, and they do not cut any muscle. They cut the skin and
because
they
it's
pull
a
the muscle
different
apart.
injury, or because technology has evolved?
The technology has actually been around for a while, and but they pull muscles apart, then they dislocate your hip, pop it out, cut off the relevant areas of bone, and then hammer in the implants themselves. So it's a pretty radical operation. But to my absolute shock, the pain levels and discomfort was radically less with the second operation than the first one, even though they were both done by highly competent people in their field. And I think you met me at 1.5 weeks in New York City.
Yeah, and you were already like walking, but it was surprising.
So now it's 8 weeks, almost to the day.
And you were like showing moves, you know, like
I can't demonstrate the moves with like panache, and it'll come back to me. Don't worry. But
you're moving well.
But I can demonstrate the basics of the move, and then luckily I've got very good students like Reese and Faria to show the complete moves. But yeah, I'm moving, and even effortlessly.
And before the surgery, this was like a catastrophe.
Yeah, I still feel pain in my crippled knee, but that's a different issue. So I just ignore that. And but in terms of my hips, yeah, I feel great.
There you go.
And looking forward to getting a little more active over time. But at 8 weeks, I remember last time at 8 weeks, I was still walking with a cane for sure. And if I had to walk for distance, I would use crutches.
Yeah.
Whereas now I go through daily life.
Oh, John, and of course that you're not giving any advice here, just sharing experience. But for example, is there anything that people can do in order to not suffer so much pain without the surgery? Is there any physiotherapy or anything that you could have done to go through this without the surgery? Where is the bottom line? Like, I have to do it, I'm gonna do the surgery, I'm not gonna do the surgery.
I tried many different things. You hear things like stem cells, like PRP injections, things like that. In my case, nothing worked.
Okay.
And when it's just bone on bone arthritis, there's not much they can do. And so I just opted for the surgery. I'd already had one surgery, and I knew it was pretty successful there. Literally every video I've ever filmed for you has been done with my first hip replacement.
Yeah.
So I figured, I'll be fine with the second one. But in terms of like therapy, once you get bone on bone, there's not a huge amount that can be done.
And Andrew, for example, if someone knows that they have a little bit of issue on their hip, or maybe like genetic, their parents, whatever, is there any jiu-jitsu move that you should avoid? Any jiu-jitsu move that forces the hip more than the others that people should be avoiding? Or especially like those who are coming back from the surgery, is there anything in jiu-jitsu that the doctor probably not going to even know how to tell them?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I would say the things that caused the most discomfort for me were takedowns that involve shooting to a knee. So double leg.
You attacking or defending?
Attacking.
Okay.
Another one would be, say, drop sanagi, where you standing position, you turn and go down to two knees to throw someone.
Yep.
This was tough. There are some moves which are very easy on the hips, like for takedowns with a gi, tomaragi.
Okay.
No problem whatsoever. But anything where you're dropping body weight onto knees and exploding up off the floor, those are typically the hardest. Yeah.
And the guard passing.
Actually, to be honest, guard was good for most of the time, provided you kept your opponent close to you. The only dangers were if I remember one time I had a talented training partner do a cartwheel, and my foot caught in his gi as he did the cartwheel, and that pulled my hip at an angle, which was pretty uncomfortable.
And then my last question, I ask you what to avoid. Is there anything that you are doing on the mat in order to be able to continue showing the moves? And is there anything?
I just do the moves themselves. I just practice jiu-jitsu.
Okay, so there's nothing specific, that there's no stretching or whatever that you're doing?
When you go to the physical therapy sessions, and I always urge you to go to a physical therapy session, it makes sense, but what I typically find is that the exercises are designed for someone who just wants to walk again. They're typically designed for much older people because I'm kind of young to be getting hip replacements. Remember, if I had a normal leg, I probably wouldn't be getting hip replacements at all since no one else in my family gets them. But if you went to a standard physical therapy session, you would see that really they just teach you to climb upstairs and go downstairs, and these are things that someone who does jiu-jitsu, they usually know how their body works pretty well. So I would say most people probably would be fine just doing their own physical therapy based on what they know about jiu-jitsu. And while I would always encourage you to do a more standard kind of physical therapy, since you're always going to learn something from a physical therapist, the exercises they give you are typically more for like daily mobility rather than something which is specific to jiu-jitsu preparation.
Yeah, or maybe finding a physiotherapist who actually does jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, this is not easy.
That might help too.
Yeah.
I got it. No, but this is awesome. Yeah, no, John, thanks for sharing this experience here. And I know that injuries is a topic in jiu-jitsu. People always ask about like how to do this injury to that injury. So by you going through this twice and sharing.
You had a very significant injury too. I remember you had a terrible pec tear.
Tore my pec, and I didn't do the surgery, which I regret. I always tell everybody to do the surgery because my one was really major, and I did lose strength that I'm gonna be without forever because I only had like a 1 month gap to do that surgery.
There's a time window on pec tears.
And I have done like my both meniscus, one on each knee, and I remove it instead of repairing just because I was a professional athlete. So repairing would be longer and could tear again. Removing was like 1 month out and no risk to tear again. And I'm all, my wrist, you can hear, so like we have all broken cars here.
I think it's fair to say, if you spend a lifetime in jiu-jitsu, by the time you come off the mats at the end, you'll definitely have some stories to tell your grandkids about what happened to you along the way. It's pretty hard to get through the whole sport without some serious mileage. I think everyone accepts that. I think everyone realizes this is a contact sport. Like everything in life, if it's worth it, it comes at a heavy price, but
yeah, no, I agree.
It's worth it.
Yeah, but at least I think the good news on the jiu-jitsu side is that I think any sport that you do, that you train twice a day, like as people, or every day, you will kind of get injured. And unless you play chess, I guess.
But that's a different kind of thing. Like, you get too heavy into something like mathematics or chess or philosophy, you often see people who do that go crazy in different ways. The injuries to the brain in many of these people.
Yeah, and get overweighted probably.
Anytime you commit heavily to one activity, it will come at a price.
I agree. Yeah, no, that's very true. But anyways, guys, I hope that helps you. And once again, thanks so much, John, for sharing this.
Good to see you, Bernardo.
Please help me out to grow my YouTube channel. Just click subscribe. And to watch more videos, just click under see more videos. I hope you enjoyed.
BJJFanatics.com. Use the promo code YouTubeFaria to get 10% off any instructional video. Improve your jiu-jitsu faster.